morning, good evening, good. Don't say good night yet. We have lots to get to. This is Max with the RHMax show. Today, our guest, BallietBran. If you don't know BallietBran, you must be new. It's been around for a while. All things OG, top to bottom, something like that. I'm sure he'll get into it with the story soon too. But it's going to be a great stream. I'm excited. We got a lot to talk about. HEX, PulseChain. Going to talk about Scivive a little bit. I got finished. I was on Funding Jim's stream earlier. If you want to go to his channel and check it out, that was a pretty good conversation as well. If you're familiar with Funding Jim, he's been around for a while too, and he's agreed to come on the show in a few weeks as well. We just got to figure out time date scheduling. So that's going to be great. Bringing some more content there. He is a dictionary, encyclopedia, human explainer of all kinds of different markets, strategies and techniques and everything Richard Heart too. So happy to have that. But today, our guest is BallietBran. So let's bring him in. Welcome to the stream.
Hey, how's it going, Max? Thanks for having me on, man. It's cool to see you starting to stream, and I appreciate you saying something that you were on Funding Jim's channel, because I'm gonna catch up on that.
Yeah, that was good. It was like I was talking to you earlier. He was like, "Hey, anybody who wants to come on, DM me." Yes, I want to come on. I want to talk to you. I want to finally meet you after you see these people stream. I've been watching. Again, I just started streaming just maybe 2-3 months ago, but I've been following Richard since 2017, watching everyone kind of grow up and start their streaming adventures a few years ago, and I've always always liked his content, always liked listening to him. And to meet him and him to come on the show later on. It's been a great day so far. I don't mind to do 2 streams in a day when I get guests like you all or on shows like that. So it's going to be great. BallietBran, I know people know who you are, but there may be a few people who don't.
Totally.
Who are you? Where do you come from? What's your story into crypto? How'd you get into Richard Heart? All that good stuff.
Totally. Yeah. So, the name BallietBran is just, my last name and first name. So Brandon Balliet is kind of just how I, came up with that. That was like the gamer tag that I would always use back in the day on, playing video games and things. But as far as crypto goes, I mean, it's just like some other people's stories where, I think a lot of people have maybe heard of Bitcoin or heard of crypto, but they might not necessarily know what that actually encompasses and what that actually means, and so anyways, in 2017, I was working for CenturyLink at the time, the internet company, and during some of the lull times, like the down times, so we would do sales over the phone, and then we would have people come into the showroom itself and kind of get them into some services. But in the meantime, one of my coworkers, Leon, he was he used to own like a jewelry store and precious metals store. And so he had kind of gotten me into some of the precious metals, like the, kind of actual, assets against, say, inflation and against some of these things during harder times that you can have control of. And so anyways, the television that we had on the showroom floor had like, some sort of digital currency, section of the show, because crypto is kind of becoming more popular nowadays. And so anyways, had gotten into, Bitcoin before it was 1,000 and Litecoin, $27, $25, something like that. And saw like the first run up, the first bull market that I'd ever been a part of. And then Richard was one of the many people that I was following at the time. And, throughout the whole bear market itself and throughout the whole bull market cycle, Richard was always kind of just like the voice of reason. And he got a lot of flack for that, a lot of flack for kind of speaking with such certainties, but they were definitely well earned. So just been following him since the beginning.
He called the top, didn't he?
Yeah. He doesn't fail to. Yeah, I was gonna say he doesn't fail to, to repeat it multiple times. And I think that's also a good thing as well, because there's a difference between like earned competence and then also like arrogance, and I think Richard really just has a lot of the skills and a lot of the data and information that he might just have kept to himself back in the day, and nowadays he's calling it to two market cycles in a row. And a lot of people, they don't want to believe that, hey, we're entering or we've been in, a bear market for a little while, and that's kind of how it was for me too. Like in 2017, when Richard called, the December top, I was like, man, I thought this would only go up, not go down too. So you kind of learn about how some of those market cycles work.
Merry effing Christmas, huh? That was a very, very interesting time, end of year.
Oh yeah.
I did want to ask too, and I don't think you're not sponsored by Shapeways or anything, are you? With the necklace?
No,
I'm not either. But if anyone wants, I want to talk about HEX merch for a bit. This is something that I really enjoy. This is gold. I think Brand's got the silver one. You can get it in different shapes and forms, and they have the HEX one. I got the solid HEX one as well. Super cool. Brand actually watched one of your streams is where I found out about it, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. I didn't know they made this type of jewelry. But yeah, there's some really cool jewelry out there. And so I know you know about maybe you're affiliated with HEX merch, hexmerch.com. I've seen you kind of share that a bit. What can you find? And then also want to talk about Hexotic rentals. That's something else I saw you cover before.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, as far as like the HEX merch thing goes, so I'd never really tested out their store, and then had bought, a set of things just to see how the quality compared to like Amazon or compared to some of the other places that I had bought it previously. And then I forget who, but someone had messaged me saying like, hey, Bran, we've heard you mention it, once or twice. If you want to get like a discount code for yourself and for other people to use, then hey, you can. So for me, it's like, there was no reason not to, since it was quality product, and I haven't gotten anything from the actual referral code itself. They might give me like a free shirt every now and then, but anyways, yeah, as far as the HEX merch goes, same thing. So I really like the gold, like the gold pendant looks super good on yours. And then I've actually got a new one on the way that it's got PulseChain on one side, and then on the other side, it's got the HEX logo. That was really cool too. Like, because initially I'd seen Richard with so one of the viewers had given Richard a silver. It's the Shapeways. It's like the HEX logo embossed is the name, and then it was out of silver. And then, long story short, I'd found out that it wasn't just a gift for Richard. Someone had created that on Shapeways, and then everyone else. Wow. Once you use it once, you can that's how we found out about it in the community.
That's cool. Yeah, I think that, I'm not someone who wears a lot of jewelry, but this is something that when I wear it, I'm like, it just feels cool. Like it looks good. It's like well designed. It's shiny. I don't know. It's not too flashy, but it's just nice. So shapeways.com, I believe, is the site. You can get on there. They have a bunch of different designs. HEX merch is where you get like just apparel, like t-shirts, maybe shoes, hats, stuff like that. Any other places for Hexicans to get merch? I know Amazon. Amazon has some stuff, and eBay. That's where I get some stuff sometimes.
Yeah. I know. Initially, back in the first place I'd bought my merch was like a website called Redbubble, and then yeah, pretty much a lot of that stuff is kind of like drop shipping, and there was another one which it's like crypto wares, but I forget the end domain, if it's like a .net or so. I don't want to say the last part, but it's like crypto wares, WEARZ. But no, it's cool, man. I mean,
crypto wares and then HEX crypto or something.
Yeah. But like you mentioned, I'm not a super flashy guy either, and but I like things that will, kind of start conversations or bring people's attention to something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, shiny object syndrome.
Yeah, totally.
Nothing else a conversation starter. I know if I wear a hat out, for example, to meetups or something, people ask me, "Oh, what does HODL mean?" Or what is that symbol or things like that. So it's a way to get attention. And then Hexotic rentals, is that where people can rent exotic cars in Vegas? Is that the deal?
Yeah, so yeah, I guess they're in like Irvine or Irvine, however you pronounce it, California. But I only heard about them through through Motley Investor. I just saw a stream that he had previewed, and then once he actually did the stream, it turns out the guy that owns the company, he was like a day one Hexican, and decided to get into the supercar rental business, I guess, and so. The past couple times that we've been to Vegas and that there's been meetups, I didn't know that you could just rent insurance for like a day. I didn't know that you could just do that. So I've learned that for the next time, that probably for PulseCon, rent one of their vehicles. But yeah, it's cool because he had said that, and I don't know how comparatively he would price, say, compared to like another exotic sports car rental place. But I thought that was really cool that Motley didn't know during the stream that he said he was going to give, any Hexagon like a 20% off discount. So anytime you can get a deal, it makes sense.
Like proving that you have HEX or paying in HEX?
So he had mentioned like, hey, if you mention, Motley Investor recommended you or referred you type of deal, that would kind of associate with the owner there, that the person was a Hexagon, or that, kind of just with that stream that was related to Motley and Wendy's for attendees, that they'd get a discount. So I guess,
Gotcha.
yeah, you wouldn't have to be a Hexagon to get the discount. You could just say Motley referred you.
Word of mouth referral code. I like it. Say hi to the chat real quick. S. Ewing has a question. How do we feel about the current HEX price and near future price? You want to take a stab at that, Brian?
Totally. So no one really has a crystal ball with like where the future price is going to be and things like this. But if you just look at what it's done in the past, where, Big Payday itself, I think it was like an 86, 87% dip. Same thing, pretty much where we're at now. They've all been insane opportunities to the upside once the dip itself consolidated. And I thought maybe around 10 cents might be, where we were consolidating, which was most recently. And then, yeah, I think we had dipped even down to like 6.5 cents, or maybe it was a little bit below 5. But anyways, as far as that goes, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because you have sometimes, such an opportunity that works out amazing where, people at 56 cents, the T shares themselves for 1 trillion shares would be X amount of dollars. And that might be like super unrealistic for the new person that's getting in. And so for a new person that's getting in, or someone that maybe got in at, say, a 50 cent range, 40 cent range, well, now they've got an opportunity. If they have, some powder in the keg still, some dry cash, dry powder, they can, average in and get their price even lower. As far as that goes, I mean, yeah, you're never going to be able to predict the exact bottom or things like that. So it's kind of just, having a plan and kind of sticking with it.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, there's a lot of macro elements involved. Everything's down right now. I mean, you're going to get the generic language of, hey, crypto is a risk on asset. Of course, that's a lot of things people are going to sell if you got HEX and you're not staked, or if you are staked and you want to make bad choices, not financial advice, but hey, people have been around a while. They know how, what the best strategies are. And it's, hey, you get paid for locking up. So if you're not locking it up, you're missing out. You're getting inflated, first of all, and then you're missing out on payouts. And when other people immerse you in stake, you get those fees if you complete your stake and all that stuff too. So it's a lot of incentives. You can only design a program very well, and then it's up to the user at that point. So with a great choice comes great responsibility, I guess. Too, I want to get into just can you just give us like a whirlwind, like Richard Heart Products 101, in case there's new people watching too who just kind of want to know like what is HEX? How does it work? What is PulseChain? How does it work? PulseX? Like what are these things in the system, and how do they kind of complement each other?
Yeah, I mean, they're all kind of, things that do complement each other, and they don't necessarily take away from each other. The thing that I thought was interesting and quite the advancement, in development from, say, HEX, is that PulseChain and PulseX are both deflationary, right? That there's never going to be any newer inflation, which kind of right off the bat is like, okay, so I could just do nothing, and if there's network usage, say within PulseChain, which is obviously it's a layer 1, and it's similar to, kind of Ethereum, how smart contracts can be built on top of it. It's pretty cool that with even, say, if I were to have a decent bag or any sort of bag and not do anything with that yet, well, if there's usage on the network itself, then the token's being used it's being burnt for each fee, which is just making something that's completely deflationary more rare. As far as the PulseX goes and all of it, they don't necessarily compete with each other. I think it's all kind of, one kind of system. And Richard talks about like vertical integration and things like that. And that's what it seems to be, where, the fees on Ethereum just got too high for the hexagon stakers, and so much to the point where, some people say they had a stake that was like a year and a half long. That's a lot of time to be accumulating hex, and for it to generally be worth it to end the stake. But then just some of the actual fees for Ethereum at its peak was getting really ridiculous, and it's unfortunate, right? Because that's not necessarily something that Richard has complete control over. Is, you can only make the smart contract so much, so gas efficient before the network itself starts becoming the problem. So when we had seen that a lot of people's stakes were, underwater because the fee was more than it costed to make sense for profit, then yeah, it was cool that Richard decided to, fork Ethereum and fork the whole system state, which he had always kind of left as an option. And then as far as, say, PulseX goes, I think it's incredible that so once again, you've got something similar to, so Richard had taken what he had learned from HEX, and on PulseChain itself, same thing, deflationary, 25% of the fees are being burnt. But then in PulseX, the really cool thing that was innovative, in my opinion, was the buy and burn. So buying at like a market buy type of deal and then burning it forever to the 0x and then all zero address, I think is a super unique, sentiment that we've seen in, say, other coins and other tokenomics. But I think what Richard does is kind of, he takes something that's already working and then he just tries to build upon it or make it better, or, do a little change here and there.
Yeah, no, I think definitely systems are complementary. Solving a problem with Pulse, gas fees. I know even if you have a stake, on Ethereum right now, if you try to end a 15-year stake, nobody can do that because it has been, you need at least 13 more years for the first 15-year stake or so, because HEX isn't old enough yet. But if you were to, even trying to end stakes that are a few years old, 3, 4, 5 years old, or the maximum length of whatever, when it first came out, is going to cost you some gas because the read fee went up like 3x or something like that with the new Ethereum improvements lately. So that's, if nothing else, and PulseChain solves that. And then, you get to copy your coins. The game theory there is still going to continue. It's going to be more interesting across the chains. I think a lot of people don't know it. And if you want to get like really deep into HEX, go watch a lot of Wells videos. Wells only does some crazy deep dives if you want to get into the technicals of HEX and all this, the micro and the macro. But I think a lot of people don't realize how when you stake it, it actually burns the tokens and essentially turns them into T-shares. So that's how you get T-shares, depending on the T-shares calculate on how many number of coins you have and how long you stake, all the things you choose. But essentially, your burn tokens are turned into T-shares. And then when you end stake or you complete the stake or all this stuff, new tokens are minted for you, with giving you the inflation or giving you the interest, the principal, and whatever bonuses and fees and stuff, however goes into it. So it's not just, there's not like some DAO holding all these tokens. They're burned, they're generated again, and the math is used to calculate T-shares. And T-shares are key. If that sentence doesn't make any sense to you, go watch Wells, all of Wells videos. It will make sense to you after maybe one or two. So
it's so true.
Yeah, it's a lot of people, when you're trading HEX, that's why it doesn't make sense. Even the phrase trading HEX doesn't make sense. It's not meant to be traded. It's meant to be locked up, or it's meant to be held, either one. And then it's meant to, of course, at the end of the day, you have to sell it sometime. You have to take profit eventually, whether it's 15 years from now or however. That's the only good point. That's one of the good points. I had Jesse from Liquid Lunch on here. He brought up that, and that was very interesting. We were talking about, getting loans for your Pulse with liquid loans and all that program. And if you want to know more about that, I did a stream a couple days ago, and there's clips on taxes and all that stuff. But he pointed out that one thing that was super interesting. He said that at the end of the day, you have to sell your HEX. But with Pulse and liquid loans, for example, you don't have to sell it. You can, take a loan on it, and if you don't pay it back, whatever. But you can get liquidity, and you don't have to sell the underlying asset. And that's the only thing, I think that's the only pump middle I could see that's either missing or not designed in HEX or whatever, which, it's a genius product. You can't say enough good things about it. But if there's one thing that I'm not saying if Richard had it over, he would put it in it, but there's one thing it doesn't have that, for example, you know, and PulseX, you can get third-party tokens and all that stuff. That one thing of relieving the sell pressure by not having to sell the token at the end of the day, even, or getting a loan on it. It's just a sweet, just mind math type of thing, and I really like that.
Yep.
It exists in other systems.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right too. And you know, sometimes, you know, obviously Richard's doing the best that he can, but he's only one person, and it's not like he's the one writing the code. Like he's kind of like the director of what he wants to oversee. So, you know, all that to say, when you mention the, you know, being able to do collateralized loans and things like that, yeah, it's nice that other people are taking things that you mentioned that are already working on Ethereum, or that kind of exists in that ecosystem, and they're making it apparent for, say, PulseChain, and allowing some of those products and services, which is amazing. I mean, you know, the cool thing about a free market and an open market is, you know, you've got a lot of people that might be competing for a similar market share, or they're helping each other. Kind of, it's like iron sharpening iron, you know, where it just makes the ecosystem better for the end user, and that's something that'll give not only PulseChain but the space itself more legitimacy. You know, at first it was magical internet money and things like that, and then now it's becoming more of like a, you know, I don't know, an ecosystem itself.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I was watching one of your streams the other day too, and you mentioned, I think somebody asked, you know, when do you think PulseChain is coming out, all this stuff, and I believe your response was like, I just honestly don't care. I just don't care.
Yeah.
And is that because, you know, is it because you're tired of talking about it, or is it because you just have no stress about it? You're just comfortable whenever it comes out, it comes out. Like, what makes you, what removes that anxiety from you about Pulse, you know, not launching in 2 weeks, for example?
Yeah. So to answer the question, it's definitely both, man, you know, and like, because when HEX first came out, like it came out complete, and yeah, I know Hexologist and I think it was Crypto Coffee were, you know, some of the first streamers and things, but as far as Pulse goes, it's like, it's you know, because Richard had said the 4 more weeks narrative for HEX. For, you know, when I was talking with Hex Tech, I was there, but I didn't really like count how long it was. He was saying it was about like 10 to 14 months. And so yeah, to be a streamer and to talk about things like that, where it's like, oh, okay, you know, this is just Richard's best prediction or his developer's best prediction. For me, it's like, yeah, it's kind of boring to talk about, just because, like, you know, it's the anticipation would build up for, oh, you know, might be 2 more weeks, and then it kind of gets let down again. So for me, it's like it's almost like a vanity type of metric, where, like, you know, what do you think Hex's price will be in the future? Because, you know, at the end of the day, no one really knows, but people, you know, they want to speculate on it because they want to have hope for the future, that it's going to be sooner than later, right? You know, we can see that whether it's a bear market and people are over leveraged, sometimes you can really see, you know, when people are being tested, you know, if they put in too much, or if they're, you know, now waiting for some of that money to come back, and they didn't think that it was going to be delayed this long, or other things like that. So for me, it's just kind of interesting to see, and, you know, we'll see when it comes out. It's a lot harder than a, you know, smart contract per se.
So perhaps, you know, if you sacked, the money that you're missing is not affecting you in real life. That's what gives you comfort, and not let you worry about the price, or the price and or when it's coming out.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that's the beautiful thing about, you know, to your point, when it comes to HEX. I mean, sure, HEX is unique. The fact that it's got 100% uptime, the fact that it, you know, pays out yield, but it does so trustlessly, that's also very cool. But then, yeah, the other thing that's just nice is, like, you know, obviously depending on how many stakers there are, if there's 100% of stakers, then, you know, then the actual amount that you're earning is going to be a lot less HEX per se than as if you have it right now, where it's like a little bit under 10%, and you're just getting these insane yields. So it's kind of nice when, yeah, when I sacrificed, I, you know, I did an amount that I was comfortable with, and that also I wouldn't feel, yeah, anticipation or anxiety if I didn't see it for a while. And turns out that's been the case, you know, been 8 or 9 months or something like that. So I'm glad the amount that I sacrificed, because it's definitely way more than I ever put into HEX. And so that's really fun. But then also it was just kind of nice to, you know, just wait and see once it comes out.
Yeah, I think that's the source of anxiety for a lot of people out there with HEX and with Pulse is they either made commitments or they had expectations. What does Richard say? No expectations from the work of others. Nobody's doing the work. You go do the work. Don't expect this product to come out. He says a lot of things like that. And by the way, he's not a dev. So you have someone who's not a dev giving you a timeline for when a product's going to be released. You can look into that a little bit and say, hey, maybe the project manager doesn't quite have, their finger on the pulse enough to know how to solve all these technical challenges that may take longer or may not take as long. So it just happened in this case to take longer. But yeah, with HEX, I think a lot of people complaining the price go down is either because they bought it so high and they're just stressed because, they thought it's going to go way up. And now they had expectations. It was going to go way up soon and definitely not go down. And then the other thing is they had basically, it comes out of expectations, but then maybe the money they put into HEX or they put into the Pulse or PulseX sacrifices was something that they expected to be returned, in X's sooner than 8, 9, 10, 12 months, however long it takes. So it's all about the expectations. When you put these things in, when you sacrifice, it literally says, don't have any expectations. Now, I know we're all human. We all have these dreams. We all sacrifice for a reason. We all expect something good to come of it. But giving yourself this timeline when you have no idea how long it's going to take. And Richard doesn't seem to have a very good idea how long it's going to take either, which he doesn't need to. That's fine. No expectations. That's what stresses you out. And I think people who are selling now when it's low, the macro trends is not great right now in the world. Maybe they got bills to pay. Maybe they got to take care of their family. I would say don't judge people who are even selling some now or ending stakes or making bad decisions or what appear to be bad decisions from your perspective, but maybe you don't know their life situation. Maybe they got stuff to do that, they need cash now. They're going to liquidate assets, and HEX just happens to be one of them. So I'd say, try to give people the benefit of the doubt before you bash them on HEX. If you follow them, you see all the crazy people in staking and buying and selling huge amounts. Just try to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there's something else going on that you're not privy to. Yeah, not much to add to that one. I think I'll close that one out. Yeah. I did want to talk about some of the strategies too with HEX, with Pulse, with PulseX. Like, what are some of the things that either you plan on doing or you've heard people talk about, or just some of the like good stuff that may not fit everyone's situation, but like would be something to think about for people to do other than just buy it and hold it and or stake it for a little bit of time? Are there things around the pre-bridge coming up, around ratio trading that would be useful? Like what are your thoughts and just around HEX, Pulse, and PulseX for how to make money for some of the strategies? And while you talk about that, I'm gonna be right back for a sec.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah. So I mean, as far as some of that stuff goes, the only thing that I'll say is sometimes people, their anticipation might get a little bit excessive and get a little bit much because you're waiting for the chain itself to launch. And then it could be similar to, say, when HEX first launched, where day one, there was so much pent up demand from 4 more weeks. And then all of a sudden, a lot of people, blow a lot of what they had on day one. As far as the ratio trading goes, I would just say be very careful. I mean, I definitely don't plan on doing anything like that. But then, everyone's responsible for their own bag and for their own decisions too. So as far as PulseX goes, there's the single-sided staking. I mean, there's going to be incentive token also for liquidity providing. But then, there's some circumstances that say maybe not all Hexicans are used to, which is if you are going to entertain the idea of any liquidity providing, well, now you have to also entertain the idea of what is an impermanent loss and what is the value of putting liquidity on one side and the other side. If maybe, you're getting in return the token that, that didn't have as high of a value increase as, say, the other one. So that's kind of like the impermanent loss thing. So for me, I'm going to be single-sided staking the actual PulseX itself, because there's really, no loss there as far as that goes. And then it's tough too, really, what to do with the actual PulseChain. It's tough to do with the PulseChain because another thing that you can do with that is delegate to the validators. But then if you look at some of the numbers there, I would say that that's almost similar to like the PulseX staking, the single-sided staking, where it's a very low risk. Obviously there's things that can be higher risk, like I mentioned, as far as maybe some of the liquidity providing and what pairs people are doing. But honestly, I'm not that experienced. Like when it came to before HEX and crypto, I'd done some stuff on Ethereum, done some stuff with some Bitcoin and Litecoin, but in the beginning of HEX 2 had provided liquidity with Uniswap, but I don't really feel like I know enough to know when I should be patient and maybe kind of see what the rest of the market's doing, and that's kind of going to be my approach.
That's something too I want to ask you. So how do you provide liquidity on Uniswap? I know a lot of people, you hear that, and a lot of people just like, oh, that sounds easy, but then they get on there and they just don't know what buttons to click or what to do. Can you just quick rundown of like how do you actually be a liquidity provider even on Uniswap?
So it's been a minute since I've actually used I think it's like app.uniswap.org, but I've always just used because Richard had like a front end as well for Uniswap that would just automatically, it was the easiest way for me to get into HEX back in the day with Ethereum.
HEX.win, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So he has the ethhex.win and then ethhex.com too. So yeah, both of those should definitely route to just Uniswap itself. But then I don't know exactly where it is in the I'd have to go to ethhex.com real quick to see, but there's a button that says I think you click pool. So you would click pool and then that's the actual pooled liquidity, I believe. And I'm pretty sure that's where you'd click new position. And then, there's a difference between putting in liquidity on version 3 Uniswap, which I've never done. The only liquidity I'd added to was Uniswap V2, which is, two sides of one Ethereum, one HEX versus just single-sided liquidity adding.
So you get on there, you want to add liquidity. And so that's actually taking it from your wallet and putting it onto their platform. And so when people buy or sell in those pairs, you add liquidity for is, you are providing tokens as part of their stash of tokens that they're able to help people trade back and forth. Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's the way that I understand it. Yeah, and it's just like with stable coins too that Richard talks about. And these are some of the dichotomies that I didn't really know about, but they kind of make sense the more that you think about it. Where if something has infinite liquidity, well, then it's nearly impossible to push the price up against something because the liquidity is kind of like a barrier for that price going up. So Richard's kind of taught us, a lot of different concepts that maybe I'd heard of in the past, but then didn't really know very well until, you see it in practice and until you kind of understand when the Godwill. So the Godwill had bought, I think it was around April of 2020. And, a Genesis Ethereum holder that participated in Ethereum, when he had bought initially 10,000 Ethereum worth of HEX, the liquidity in HEX is at such a point, the minimum viable liquidity, where, yeah, it doubled the price. And, we never went back to those lows, even after people had sold into the price.
Nice. Yeah, the case for less liquidity on the buy or on the which one would make the price go up? The buy side or the sell side? Okay.
I think it's just the liquidity in general. Yeah. At least with the V2, the way that the V2 works. But as far as the V3, it probably is different with one side or the other.
So I think V3 is the difference is you can do single sided. So you don't have to provide liquidity on both sides. You can just do it for one of the pairs. And do you remember how much yield you were getting or anything like that? Like any numbers?
Honestly, I don't. I know some people are way more methodical and mathematical when it comes to inputting everything into an Excel. And I remember it wasn't even very much, but it was enough. Speaking of that, it definitely was enough to qualify for this was what kind of made Uniswap popular was Richard. A lot of it, bringing it to the HEX community's attention and awareness. And it at least was enough to, qualify for like the Uniswap airdrop. Some of the liquidity providers got more than others than, say, if you had just done a swap once. So that was my first time in like actual free money.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. Got a question from chat. Thanks, chat. Appreciate you guys are heating up. Got IB19, Crypto Gains in the house, Astro369. Like to see you all again. Sway Hexagon. Sloth was here earlier. Yeah, appreciate it. Astro369 says, are you guys using layer 2s? I am not. But Brian, yeah, how about you?
No, I'm not. But then same thing, because some of these terms I had heard, I mean, especially with Bitcoin, you hear that a lot with like the Lightning Network and things like that, or these different things that, that you can kind of build on top with all these different layers. But it wasn't until it was ZK Sync that Richard had or whoever had facilitated. It was like 300,000 wallets that they had done, like maybe it was like 100 or 200 hex airdrop to like 300,000 plus wallets, and they were only able to do that via ZK Sync, which was layer 2, because obviously, even though the fees in Ethereum were cheaper at that time, it would have been, way too much of an expense to justify that cost for the gas of each wallet. But I've never really used it other than that, as far as layer 2s go.
Yeah, same. I haven't used Lightning before with Bitcoin, which I don't really use Bitcoin that often either. So cool. So it doesn't sound like you trade too much. You're like app.uniswap. Yeah. So when you do trades, though, is it? Are you using Uniswap? Are you using Matcha.xyz? What are the places that you use to trade the best thing?
Yeah. So initially, in the very beginning, it was just not Uniswap, but yeah, exactly. Sorry, Uniswap is what I was thinking of. Now, especially with being able to do limit orders, that's pretty much all I do anymore. I mean, I've talked about it in the past that, I had experimented with, some of the market orders, and then it's like, dude, if you don't need to have that hex or that money immediately, well, it doesn't make sense to do a market order, because there's such a demand on both sides that anytime I've, done a buy or a sell with the limit order, it pretty much gets filled within like 12 hours, So like, wow. If you can, if you can wait for your hex to do a limit order, then the actual wrapped Ethereum that you use for the limit order, it's like, the fee that you're paying is pretty much no fee, but you need to pay like one fee at least to get the wrapped Ethereum. So it's a lot cheaper on fees too.
Yeah, use limit orders where you can. I haven't used a lot of limit orders on DEXs yet, but it's on centralized exchange. Back in 2017, 2018 days. That's where we're going to get the best deal, and I'm glad the DEXs support that, and start using them more often myself. IB19 says, do you guys think the market dipped another significant level? Well, why not? It's everything. Is this the end? Like, I don't know what sign there is of this being the end. So why couldn't it drop some more? Now you can take that one of two ways. You could say, oh, my stuff's going to be worth less now, and are you selling it? Do you care? Which maybe you are, and you do care. That's totally valid too. The other way to look at it is buying opportunity. Dips are in the game. You know what you signed up for, all those things. So could it drop another significant level? Again, I haven't seen any signs of the market slowing down in the downwards direction. So it totally could. I don't think it's going to get much better for a while, especially with the stuff, the macro war stuff going on. That's not giving a lot of people faith in the economy globally. Shortages everywhere, trade war stuff. We got the markets, especially tech, just getting murdered because, hey, maybe they were overvalued for a while, and it's time to recede a bit. Unfortunately, nobody wants that, but it's a cycle. Everything's in cycles. It's healthy. If it went up, way too much over a long period of time, it's going to be really, really bad. So, that's what you try to hope for: a short and small bear market, and then a reasonable bull markets. Those are the most healthy cycles, I think. But what do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with it's you know, the answer in a question like that is always yes, it could dip more, you know, and because once again I was thinking, you know, oh okay, from 56 cents to around 10 to 10 cents, okay, you know, seems to be holding for a little bit, but then yeah, I mean, you know, I just watched the stream with Motley and Crypto Stylist, and the answer is yes, you know, it always can dip, you know, more and things like that, but then the other question you have to ask yourself is like, at what point does so the dippage is because of more sell pressure than buying pressure, but at what point does the buy pressure outweigh some of the people that are selling? And then
When
the other
things
thing is
become too
too is
cheap.
with
When things become too cheap, they tend to go back up.
yeah, yeah, and like you know, it's tough, right? Because people, you know, some of the largest wealth that they've ever had is wrapped up into crypto, and so you know, crypto can really show you that it goes to kind of with what some of the things that Peter Schiff has talked about with the Bitcoiners, where a lot of them didn't sell, or a lot of them just had what they thought were gains, but it was on paper, you know, and so a bear market or just not actually taking you know the possession of those gains, you know they can they can either go up or go down really quickly, depending on if you didn't actually take the profit and if it continues to you know either go up or go down. And so I think a bear market kind of teaches people like, oh, was I over leveraged, or you know do I want a bag of you know fiat reserve where I can you know average in if it does go lower, which it you know you always have to ask yourself that question, like if it does go lower, then what do you do, and kind of maybe plan for it to for that to happen more than say the upside, you know.
Yeah, the only reason you should be nervous is if you put in more than you could afford to lose. If you're over leveraged, if you had expectations based on hopes and dreams. Again, we all have these high expectations for Pulse and HEX and crypto and everything else. But the only thing that gives you, like, what else is there? What else would give you anxiety unless you're missing the money? Or, you know, I guess you could feel bad because you think it's going to zero, or you think you made a bad decision, or you bought at the wrong time, and things like that. But that's not, you know, that's you got to be you got to look on the bright side and just know that you have bought one of the best appreciating assets ever in existence. Dips are in the game. It goes up and down. It'll go up again. Knock on wood. If the world doesn't end, I don't know how it wouldn't. You got lots and lots of people that believe that sentiment. And back in September, October, I bet there's a lot of people looking at their HEX stakes thinking, look at those paper gains, baby, 50 cents. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I'm so rich. Or, you know, oh my gosh, I made such a good decision. Or at least the people who bought 50 cents were like, it hasn't went down yet. And then down. With everything else too. I mean, HEX, of course, it went up really, really fast. And maybe it wasn't sustainable. Apparently the market thought it wasn't. Which is fine, but yeah, we're up. What? Not even the third year yet. We're at year 2.5. Mm-hmm. Saying people are staking it for 15 years. People are locking up millions of dollars. There's billions of dollars locked up for 15 years, or a significant portion of years. And average stake length is what, 6.5 years, something like that.
Yep.
What else can give you faith that's going away? How many people in Terra Luna had stuff locked up for 15 years? How many people lock up Ethereum for 15 years? Or Bitcoin for 15? Nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. That's the thing that gives me faith that's going to be around for a while. People are putting their money where their mouth is. And you can see it on the charts. How many people were staked, and you can see it on the number of whales, and you can see all of these different signals with people who are making all the long-term stakes. They believe it's going to be around for a while.
Yeah, well, and like especially with I think you know a lot of people weren't super certain in the very beginning because you had so much FUD of hey, Richard Heart's a scammer, you know, all these different things that you hear, recycled narratives. And then when you see, like you had mentioned, when you see that first mover's advantage kind of growing more and more people adopting it. And then when I personally had seen the Godwill do his first buy, it was like, okay, like, you know, I thought it was legitimate before then, but that kind of sealed the deal because, you know, it showed that someone that had previous successful investing had also put, you know, in a portion of that into things like HEX and continued to, you know, buy in. It wasn't just one lump sum. I had seen them kind of accumulate a position. And, and you do have to ask yourself when you're doing any investment is developing a time horizon for how long you plan to invest it for. Because if you just put in the money and then don't have any plan on when you want to take profit or what you want to do with those things, then you kind of have a half-baked plan. So I think things like bear markets kind of teach people that, hey, maybe if you didn't have a plan before, maybe it's time to develop a plan if this happens or if that happens. So it kind of allows people to be more, detailed.
Yeah. And pain, learning and growing is painful. You learn anything. You remember in elementary school, you're learning how to do your ABCs and you learn math and all this stuff. Was it fun? It usually wasn't a lot of fun. It was like, I got to make my brain work really hard to understand this. So if you make your brain work really hard to understand this stuff, you're in much better shape. We got a question, IB19. I'm staked mostly being DCA'd into HEX. Congrats. I have a stake in ladder, some liquid. I want to do one more stake. Unsure for how long. What's your minimum stake length at present? Ooh, you want to take a stab at that, Brian?
So what is my minimum length stake at present? I mean, I've got the minimum I have is like a year from now, all the way up to 15. Like I chose to do the biannual strategy. And then I realized, okay, in the beginning, I didn't know kind of how to do, how to maximize like a ladder or how often to do it. And then it wasn't until big payday had happened and things like that, that I realized, okay, it's the shares itself in the system that are kind of the most important, and you want your game theory to maximize those shares. So obviously if you have, a whole bunch of stakes and things like that, it can dilute, some of the shares that you have. If you, cause what's his face? I think it was Gen Hex, Craig Wadding. He had mentioned that he had 2 stakes that ended on the same day. And I had made rookie mistakes like that too. But as far as it goes, I mean, it's tough to tell. It's tough to answer because it's all individual, right? Like where that person is. But the only thing that I would say is, hey, if you want to do one more stake, that's great. Maybe wherever there's more of a discrepancy in the actual ladder itself, if it's, if you have an annual staking ladder, but maybe your first stake doesn't come out until, I don't know, 3 years later, then, maybe you do one sooner. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of tough to answer.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of it depends on your situation, what your, like you said, time horizon, all that stuff. So hopefully that helped though. Got another, let me say, flexibility basis. Yeah, good point out there. I want to ask about, do you know about the liquidation auctions that on Hedron that are starting today? I saw David Feeder talk about that.
Honestly, I don't. I know that with Hedron, I've claimed all the Hedron and, same thing. I'm just sitting on that bag for a while, right? Because it's kind of like HEX in the beginning too, where, oh, great, day 33, you could have gotten, for one Ethereum, like 1.8 million HEX. But then say if you sold it all then, that's kind of how I feel about Hedron now, where it's like, oh, you can have billions of Hedron or X amount of Hedron. But there just hasn't been enough price appreciation. It's kind of like a long-term play, especially with unison with the actual HEX pricing. So honestly, I'm not too familiar with that, but I know that, I mean, hey, more utility to the coin where it's actually being used and being burned and things like that. Just give it, better value prop.
The best quote I've seen so far on Hedron was, I think it was from HEXX actually, that it was ahead of its time. I think that's a great way to describe it, where people can't quite wrap their head around it. It's a lot of people got the 10x bonus. We haven't even gotten into PulseChain with it yet for P-Hedron. There's just, the system is just so like interesting and nuanced that it really takes a lot to wrap your head around the value. And it'll come out eventually. People will know more about it and figure it out and understand how to use it to their advantage. The whole NFTs as stakes and all that stuff is just, I mean, we don't have a marketplace for them on Pulse yet. Maybe, Mintra or otherwise could be that. But I think it's ahead of its time too. I think a lot of people don't realize the value that's going to have over time. So I think the conversation on Hedron is going to be very different 2-3 years from now. And just don't worry. I wouldn't worry about the local lows right now. It's a little bit ahead of its time. It's like a Back to the Future type of thing when Marty gets on stage and he's doing the rock and roll. They're like, oh, I guess you all aren't ready for that yet. It's kind of, that's the Hedron analogy I'll give it.
True. No, that's a good point, man. I definitely agree. And like, the space itself is as you mentioned, I mean, whether something is ahead of its time or whether we're so early that people might not realize the value. Richard talks about that too, which is, something like with HEX, where HEX is completed, it's got a lot of game theory, but just because it has a lot of these nice features doesn't mean that it's automatically going to go up, So I think it's cool what Alex is doing with Hedron, at least, more developments and things like that are going on. Because, yeah, if you can get someone to be incentivized to use this more than that thing, then obviously that's going to drive more adoption to that ecosystem.
Yeah, and on the liquidation auctions, I think I'm going to check it out later. I think they're going to come out either now or soon. But I think I was talking to David the other day, and he said something like there was one coming up. At least one of them was something like some crazy. The starting bid was like, I don't know, maybe just a few $1,000s, and it was I think a 30K stake. So stuff like that. So I'm not saying the more people know about it, the more people who may bid, and you may not get a great deal, but it sounded like you were going bargain shopping on stuff like that because wow, because you're getting a discount on people who were getting liquidated, who didn't pay back, who borrowed Hedron, didn't pay it back, and now their stake is up for liquidation. So that's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see the first Hedron liquidation auction and see what happens.
Well, and it's interesting too, because same thing. I'm blanking on who was saying it the other day, but a whole bunch of things kind of being built with HEX baked into it, whether it's the Maximus or the Hedron or things like that, because the HEX code itself is completely immutable. And then when Hedron had come out and not only done an airdrop for everyone based on their shares, but when I'd heard that you could do more with an NFT than just buying it and selling it, right? These expensive JPEGs. Someone like Crypto Kool-Aid was kind of he was the first one to like educate me. Yeah, exactly. But it was interesting because like I thought that like the technology itself could only do one thing or the other, but the fact that now you can use this to wrap the stakes and give it more utility than I thought it had before.
Yeah, and I think it's cool too that you can so without wrapping your stakes, you can always just make a stake in a new wallet and then give the other person your seed words, for example. If you're selling it to them, like you give them that seed words and then maybe they take it, transfer to a new wallet so they don't have to trust you anymore, blah, blah, blah. So without wrapping your HEX stakes, you can still do that. You just stake in a wallet and give it to another person. But with this, you can trade it as a token. So it makes it, much less friction. And what was it? There was another good thing about that too, where you could send it like that. So yeah, if your wallet gets compromised, you can just send, assuming the attacker hasn't took your NFT, your stake, your wrapped stakes yet, you can send those to another wallet, and now they're there. Because once you stake in your wallet, you can't. It's in your wallet. It's bound to that wallet. But if you have an NFT for it, it's like another security, backup deal too, which is like the kind of this feature that not a lot of people realize is there. So Alan says Gunther sold HSS stakes. I saw that. I watched him on Jim Rat this morning. Gunther was talking about he sold some HSS stakes to another person for $750K. Yeah, that was an interesting stream. You should go back and watch Jim Rat's stream this morning with Gunther and him and Sam. Gunther talked about a lot of interesting deals that he's made and other stuff, and he's really high on Pulse Doge. What do you think of Pulse Doge coin? I have to say Pulse Doge coin because there's actually another Pulse Doge.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, dude, so I've kind of gotten to the point with crypto or it's even to the point with like Hedron or some of these other things where it's like sometimes there's so much that's going on in the Richard Heart ecosystem or some of these other things that people have done that it can kind of be tough to stay up to date on all of it. So as far as the Pulse Doge coin and things like this, like I don't know, I kind of just treated it the way that I've done other airdrops in the past, right? Where you don't know if the token itself that you got for free is going to continue going up in value or if it's just going to have a whole bunch of sell pressure because people got coins for very very stupid not to take the free money and run, but hey, other people, you're kind of betting if you didn't do that, that token would go up versus HEX over the long run. And for me, I'm just not willing to make that bet. So yeah, I just took profit and put it into HEX, and I just kept it there.
You pulled a hexo. Seems like every time he gets something for free, he's like, "Yep, sold it all for HEX." Like, you know what? I can't blame you for that. Like, there could be worse things you could sell it for. So
I didn't do that with the Hedron. With my Hedron, like I learned a little bit more about it before doing anything with it. And I have kept that, and that's a way longer play. So that's definitely the difference with myself and Pulse Doge coin.
Yeah. IB19's had a question on, do they trust you though? It was selling a stake by giving them free. Yeah, so you have a wallet and it has a seed phrase. And if you have a stake, if you give your seed phrase to another person, don't accidentally do that. But if you're actually selling your wallet, which has your stake in it, then that other person could gain control of it. Whoever controls the seeds controls, private keys controls the wallet. So you could sell it to them or whatever you want to do for that. And then after that, hopefully they would send it, they can't send it to another wallet. That's a good point. Maybe I guess the wrap stakes solve that problem too, because I don't know. Maybe it does have some other contract to make sure they never do anything with it because you can't change the seed phrase. Yeah, good point. Good point. So yeah, there you go. HSI stakes solve the problem right there. You can wrap the stakes, send that as NFT, and the whole process is much easier.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of just smart not to like have everything be 100%, or like it doesn't all just have to be one way or the other. Some people kind of have felt that way maybe with some of the staking, right? Because the longer that you're staking, the more that you're being incentivized with those shares and kind of the payout. But it's not for everyone to do one thing or the other. I mean, sometimes the best thing that you can do is a ladder, or you don't have to be 100% staked, right? You could have different varying amounts of either. Maybe it makes sense for someone to have like an emergency pile that they kept liquid, or if you're kind of investing, just kind of to think about some of these things. Think about, okay, what happens if this coin or token does go in a bear market, or I don't know, kind of just thinking about those things ahead of time, because it's when people that emergency end staked, it's people like that might not have planned or prepared for such an event to happen, and all of a sudden they're taking a huge hit on their principal as well as selling on the market.
It's not easy too. I mean, we say get prepared, do your research, make good decisions, but it's really hard. I mean, someone asks you what your financial situation is going to be in 2 years or 1 year or 6 months. It's really hard to say. And so you may think one day, you may think it's a good decision, and then 6 months from now, you'd be like, shit, why did I do it that way? Why did I stake that much for that long, or things like that? So it is I'll give credit to people. It is not an easy thing to do, and things change. I mean, you could have some major life event where you're like, man, I need to end stake. I need to get money to help my family or pay my mortgage or whatever it is. You may lose your job. There's all these life events. So again, just try to be kind to people when you see them doing things that on the outside don't look like a smart thing to do. Of course, you're biased and have interest because you want to see price go up. So when you see people sell or in stake or whatever, that makes you nervous. But just imagine, try to put yourself in their shoes and give them the benefit of the doubt, because they may need it for something. I think there's a lot of people who are selling. Maybe there's a lot of things going on in the world, and at the end of the day, you got to take care of yourself too. I wanted to switch gears a little bit to Scivive. I know you're a Sciviver of sorts. You've been talking to Wild SJ about it for a while. I have as well. I know you did some. I think you started a channel, didn't you? That was doing some Scivive stuff.
Yeah. So I was doing stuff like videos once a month, and I still have the stream with SJ that I had done on things like that. And then I had missed like 1 month of the actual video itself of like posting, monthly. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I kind of need to go back and see what I want to do with that channel, or, at least, I don't know, put some more effort into the people that were initially subscribing or following over there, how I can, I don't like to just make content just to make it, or put sometimes arbitrary numbers on myself for performance. Like for me, initially it was like I said, a video every month, but then, what if there's not something to talk about? I don't want to just conjure something that isn't my best self, or even honestly this week with streaming, like, when you mention the question about PulseChain and things like this, it's like, what more is there to talk about really until it does come out? Like, I feel like it, sometimes things have been, for me at least, for other people, great. I can kind of thrive off them, or just listen to them and maybe hear things that I haven't caught before. But I'm kind of getting to the point where it's like, yeah, everyone's heard the same thing, right? Oh, with HEX, whether it's the shares and the staking, why that's so great. And so anyways, yeah, the channel itself, the Scivive one, it's kind of, I haven't really developed it as much as I'd like to yet.
Yeah, no, I mean, no worries. I think just I try to talk about it as much as I can, just because, I try to bring it up on these streams too, because I think it's just such an important work that I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to. They're not reading it. They're not listening. I mean, there's some people listening to audiobook, and there's a community thing on Twitter where people can talk about it. But I went through and I wrote some on my blog on rhmax.org. I did some commentary on basically a summarization of a lot of the chapters, and on goodreads.com, I tried to add a bunch of quotes. We got a lot of quotes on there from it too, to try to get it more indexed and people looking at it who are just searching online for wealth, wisdom, happiness advice. But what is somebody, like, if you had to pick one chapter in Scivive, just like one chapter where you're like, okay, this is the best one I can recommend to somebody, regardless of their situation. If you read this, there's like a good chance you will get something out of it to use in your life to be better in some way. You have a favorite chapter too that you would recommend?
Yeah, because obviously everything's a work in progress. But for me, I would say it's just the time aspect. Like a lot of people, they look at Richard, who's got success, or anyone who has success, and then they ask themselves, like, how is this person doing so much? Because at the end of the day, people all have the same amount of 24 hours times 7, 7 days a week. And so Richard has kind of talked about some of the things that he would do, whether it's whether you're like on a task itself and then you end up getting distracted, like how to stay on task and stay focused for longer, and limit the actual distractions, whether it be in your life or whether it be for that chunk of time. He had talked about I'm blanking on the actual term that's used, but pretty much Pomodoro technique, kind of just doing things in certain
chunking
segments or chunking. So that's kind of what I do, like on when I think of, okay, what do I want to get done for today, and lately it's been like the health has been on focus for that. So okay, how much of my time today is going to be focused on the cardio that I need to do, and then also like the lifting. And so anyways, I would say it's definitely time, because a lot of people, I mean, you can easily start doing like the doom scrolling thing, or go on your phone, and all of a sudden you find yourself
Please
20,
make me happy.
15
Make
minutes.
me happy.
Yeah. Or just not doing what you had wanted to do because you're kind of procrastinating and you're putting it off. So for me, it's always the time components that, or you mentioned like with the Scivive, same thing. I think a lot of that's not necessarily before it's time, but I feel like, a lot of people know Richard for, say, HEX or PulseChain or PulseX now, not necessarily for the self-help books that he's
Louis
written,
Vuitton.
but yeah, exactly. Louis Vuitton. But that doesn't mean that, the content in the book itself, Scivive or Fix the World, is any worse. It just means that it hasn't, been discovered yet for what it's capable of, I think.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned time too. It's one of my favorite chapters. I would say the power and the money chapters are really good too. But for time, that's something I catch myself a lot of times doing is, and if you could see yourself doing it, you can work around it a lot, but it's really hard because it's kind of like this second level deal in your mind. But I can see myself, I have something I don't want to do, and I try to do the eat the frog technique, where whatever you don't want to do that day, you do it first. You do it in the morning, you get it out of the way, don't have to worry about it anymore. But especially if I have something on my to-do list and it sits there and I don't get it done one day, I'm like, I'll do it next day. And then I literally will try to set myself up to do it. I'll put, whatever, I'll put my shoes by the door, I'll put it on my desk in front of me. I'll do everything to put myself in the best position to get it done. And then I'll see myself like getting motivated to do other things. Like all of a sudden now I want to go to the store. I'll look at it. Okay, I'm about to do it. You know what? Actually, I need some food. I need to go out and get something. I'll stop myself. I'll see, no, you're just avoiding it. You're just avoiding doing it. Stop what you're doing and go do this. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But if you can see these things, if you can realize what, your mind is working around these different tricks of like, subconsciously you don't want to do it. So you're finding other things, no matter what they are, trivial or not, you're finding something else to make you delay doing it. If you put yourself in debug mode, I guess as Naval Ravikant, one of my favorite book authors and tweeters would say, put yourself in debug mode and watch yourself and see how you act. Then you can be like, no, I'm not going to do it that way. I see my subconscious playing things out, and that's not what I want to do. I'm going to get it done. So that's something I've noticed in the last year or two about myself that I'm like, wow, that's actually it's fun to be able to do that and steer yourself in the right direction.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's super important, right? Because I think it's individual for each person, right? Whatever might be hanging them up or hindering them is kind of different than for the next person. So yeah, to have that kind of awareness and introspection that you kind of know what your biggest weaknesses are, because you're right. Then you can kind of, because oftentimes, like for me, dude, it's like when I'm going to do the cardio, like that's when my brain is telling me, oh, just do the elevator instead of the stairs today and stuff like that. But you kind of just have to, reprogram, what you risk and, the risk to reward things. So rewarding yourself for that good behavior and just keeping yourself distracted in a good way.
Well, it's one, holding yourself accountable. So you got to be able to hold yourself accountable. You have to either be able to punish yourself or reward yourself. The carrot and the stick type of thing. So that's just fundamental. Whether you want to do cardio, okay. If you do this cardio, you can go have some chocolate, or you can go have some you can go do something you like to do, whether it's eating or drinking, or you can go out with you do cardio today, then you can come up to the meetup on Saturday, stuff like that. Or you tell yourself, okay, if I don't do cardio, then I'm not going out. Then I'm not going to stream, or I'm not going to have anything sweet today, or whatever it is, whatever you're trying to work on. And then, like you said, the introspection of just watching yourself and being able to see when you're doing something you should be doing, stopping yourself, and then getting realigned. Those two things are just, I think they're hard to do because they're not easy and they're not frictionless. They make yourself think and really stop and not continue going on a path, which is, everyone, you want to walk around your house, you want to, do what you want to do. You want to seek pleasure instead of pain. It's all natural. But if you want to be productive and you want to, get stuff done, you have to kind of have a second level thinking there. And pro tip, if you don't want to forget stuff, put them by the door, put them in your shoes even, because, you keep forgetting your badge, or you keep forgetting your, something to take to a friend's house, or keys, or whatever it is. You put them in your, if it's small enough, you put them in your shoes. You stick your foot in that shoe, it's going to remind you. You're going to have it in your hand right there. You're going to take it out of your shoe. You're going to put it in your pocket. You're good to go. If it's too big, put it right in front of the door, where you cannot open the door without taking that with you. And I guarantee you, 90% of the time, that'll save you from forgetting. That's a life hack for you there.
Yeah. No, I do the same thing, like with my keys, I mean, and it comes from losing them, or, from learning from that mistake. But same thing. I mean, I've got like a cork board where I've got some photos, and I've got like a carabiner where all the keys go, and every single time, that just keeping the routine, and then that way you don't have to have that moment where you're leaving to work, or you're leaving to go do something, and you're frantically looking for something that you should have had planned ahead of time for.
Yes, exactly. Cool, man. Well, anything else going on? Anything you want to put out there or want to talk about?
I mean, honestly, that's pretty much it. I mean, I once again, it's cool during times like this, or in the very beginning of, say, HEX, like a lot of the lockdown stuff and restrictions on seeing each other and traveling were kind of happening. And I think it's cool the way that the community really bonded and got tight and, became friends with each other and things like that. I think right now we're kind of at a similar experience where, like, whether it was, not being able to see each other as much in person, or whether, say, it's like a bear market, right? Globally, not just in crypto or other things. I think it's cool that the community itself, you can meet people that maybe you didn't know of before, or, make friends with people that you guys might be able to benefit each other. And, that's the one thing that Wendy's for Attendees had mentioned, like his biggest alpha that he could recommend in the HEX community and the RH ecosystem is just, becoming friends with the people that are like-minded, because not only are you in an investment together, but then you mentioned with people like Funding Jim, being able to stream with him and kind of, get in with people like him, where before we might not have had that opportunity. So I just say, keep it up. And then, as far as the markets go, it's always teaching us new lessons and new things to focus on. So each time people can ideally, celebrate the small wins, or learn from certain things that you did properly last time that can set you up for, a future bear market, or that can set you up for future, risk management.
For sure. I think that's one of the biggest things. Being part of this community, you get to meet people from all different walks of life. You get to know them. You get to hang out. I mean, that's why I love to interview people. I like to know people's backgrounds and where they come from and what they're doing. And I mean, every stream I learned something from people, and you just get to develop these community feeling, and yeah, if you have local meetups, that's another thing that Staked Wealth and I talked about on a stream was, hey, if you have a local HEX tribe, you have some meetup. If you don't yet, like, start one, like start a Telegram group. I mean, Brand and folks have started one for Washington State people on Telegram. I know there's like some for Canadians in different cities that Stake Wealth is a part of. If you don't have a local one in your city or a nearby city, just start one. Start messaging people, put it out there on Twitter. But like, hey, if you want to meet Hexicans locally, put it out there, and you might be surprised at how many people are actually nearby that share the same values and can help you when times are tough, and can laugh, enjoy, and drive Lambos with you when times are good. Speaking of that, PulseChain, or not PulseChain, IB19, you got me in win PulseChain, sir. PulseCon.
Oh yeah.
You had the PulseCon this year?
Yep. Yeah, so I'll be going, and what is that, September 6th through the 9th? So a little bit less than 4 months, about 3 months away-ish. Yeah, I'm definitely going. I'll tell you what though, Vegas is super hot that time of year. Because we had went in like June the time before, like the first conference was in June. And so I'm going there for the Hexicans and for the community, definitely going to be in the air conditioned rooms and things like that. But no, it's true. I mean, like you mentioned, whether it's digitally or whether it's in person at the meetups, I know they're going to be doing another tour and things like that around the US again. So, get to those meetups if you haven't yet, because you're right. You might meet people that you can call your friends in the future, or be able to, build something together and things like that. You just never know until you actually try it.
Yeah, networking is super underrated. If you don't learn something, and I mean, even if you, not saying you'll never see the other person again, but if you just talk to people and you communicate and you're able to form relationships and make new friends, all this stuff, you never know. Somebody may give you an idea for a new project, and you may be creating a token on PulseChain. You may be creating the next, the next Hedron, the next all the cool community tokens too. So never know, especially if you have skills. If you're a developer, or you're good at marketing, or good at media, or you're good at art, I mean, there's full teams. They build out these full sales teams that need a little bit of everything. So if you're motivated and properly fueled and have good incentives aligned and good intentions, and want to make your market community, hey, I don't think there'll be less projects going forward. I think there'll be even more. And wow, there's going to be a lot of sacrifice phases, aren't there? Oh, that's what I was going to ask. I will say that I'm going to try my best to make it to PulseCon. So if anyone's out there going to PulseCon, Brand's going, I'm going to try my best to make it if all goes well. Sure. But wallet, I wanted to ask you about that wallet coming up. Richard keeps saying, he said there will be a sacrifice phase for the
Yep.
MetaMask replacement wallet. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like with PulseChain and PulseX, where they weren't really expected per se, but then when the opportunity had presented itself, it's like, okay, well, now we're going to do a sacrifice phase for it. And so I think maybe a lot of people that were, 100% staked or things like that, maybe they kind of realized, or maybe they didn't have dry powder on the side. Maybe they realize now, okay, maybe it doesn't hurt to have 5 or 10% of, or whatever number is right for each person is individual. But I think it's smart to have some sort of, dry powder on the side for the next sacrifice, or to kind of have a plan instead of just being 100% staked and then you're sitting on your hands while everyone else is sacrificing. So there's definitely risks and rewards there. But as far as that goes, I mean, Richard had said, yeah, he's going to do another token for it. And I'm super excited. I mean, in my opinion, I think there's always going to be more people in the most recent thing that's coming out because they might have missed PulseChain, or maybe they missed the PulseX. And so they don't want to miss, this next rendition that Richard's doing. So it's exciting that Richard keeps building out those things.
Do you have any idea what the token would be for? Because MetaMask doesn't have a token, does it? So what would this token be used for?
Honestly, I am not too sure at all. Can't provide any value whatsoever there. I know there's some tokens that, with the PulseX, with the amount of shares and things, you kind of have like the DAO, the decentralized autonomous organization. You can, do votes here and things like that. But honestly, I'm not really the guy for that. I don't know, but what I do know is Richard doesn't necessarily build something for like redundancy or just out of being able to do something. Like, it will serve some sort of purpose, just whatever it serves. I can't really think of that use case yet.
Yeah, I'm excited for the fundamentals. I know, like you said, face value. What is this token going to do? MetaMask operates fine with that one, but where there's, if you took a look at MetaMask and you said, okay, what features would stakeholders be able to use that other people, you would be incentivized to use tokens for it. I don't know. I think you could do a breakdown and see the different features that could be added for a better MetaMask, and or some of the areas that it does well that you could say, okay, we can gamify this area, or we can add fundamentals here. So I don't think the devs are going to be working on it anytime soon. I think their heads down, we all hope, on PulseChain. But as soon as that's launched, I imagine that's the next project. They're like, all right, devs, you take a week vacation or whatever, you come back, we're going to make you even richer with a new wallet deal. So it'll be a big exciting year. That's what's so cool about this too. You never know what's going to happen. You never know. It's just this community and Richard building all those products it keeps you engaged. It really does. It keeps you, instead of spending consciousness, on games and trading and all this stuff, it keeps you engaged in something that's, more healthy. It's wealth, health, happiness type stuff. And that's one of the biggest things that I like about this community.
Yeah, me too. It's given utility for crypto itself, other than, just he talks about it being like an Excel spreadsheet, or like you mentioned with the, kind of something to look forward to with the future with things like HEX, or delaying some of that gratification because, you have stakes half a year or 10 years down the road. You want to be able to be healthy and alive for those, right? So it's exciting, man. It's one hell of a ride and a journey, and I'm just excited about the community and the people along the way that I get to meet. I mean, people like Jim Rat doing the fitness challenge, and everyone kind of doing things that they know and that they understand, but that can also provide value to the community. It's awesome to see.
Yeah. Do you think in 5 or 10 years there'll be, somebody will ask somebody in the community who, diamond hands, and they're like, hey, what do you do? How do you make money? Like, what is your job? And they're like, oh, I'm an investor. I've been getting paid passive income through my HEX stakes for years now. Can you imagine how many conversations are going to happen like that? It's just going to be crazy.
Yeah. Well, and just like with the internet too, where like a lot of people are like oh, what's the reason for electronic mail when we've got physical mail, things like that. And then they don't realize until a decade later, or a couple of decades later, when everyone else is just kind of using that as their day-to-day lives. And you're right. I mean, the opportunity is, before the whole masses come in, and before the adoption gets so diluted that the gains do get smaller over time. But I think we're we're a ways out before that actually happens.
There will be a day where you won't hear people talk about T shares. It'll be B shares, or even T shares, but 1,000 shares. Or I guess, no, I'm sorry, M shares. It'll be like M shares. There will be a day. And at that point, HEX might not be such a bargain. But hey, that's why we're so lucky enough to be around, conscious, alive, feeling it, plenty of energy, plenty of disposable income, hopefully, to get into this stuff early. And you look at all the companies. If you bought Coca-Cola at a penny, you're super rich right now. If you bought anything when you first got in that's been successful, that's how people go from rags to riches, if you will. Yeah. IB19, does JP Morgan own a part of MetaMask? I know JP Morgan, didn't they invest in Zcash? Isn't that didn't they spin out like Zcash Labs or something from that? I believe, but yeah. Do you know anything about MetaMask?
I don't know. I'm not too sure as far as all of the specific. I'd have to Google that one on board as well.
It wouldn't surprise me if they took a stake in MetaMask company. Well, I assume they're a company because they were blocking Venezuela or something. So that sounds like they are a startup of some sort who has some control with the platform. But anyways, folks, go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. That was the last thing I was going to say. That is more legitimacy in the cryptocurrency space is whether in 2017 it was JP Morgan, the founder, right? The guy talking about it, where he was saying
Jamie
hey,
Dimon.
people. Yeah, sorry, Jamie Dimon. That's who I was thinking of.
JP Morgan is way dead.
But, I meant the representative of it.
Jamie Dimon.
Where Jamie Dimon was talking about hey, if the people that we find out that are working for us own it, they're going to be fired. But then you find out 3 to 6 months later that they were buying that whole time too. And that just kind of gives more legitimacy to this space itself, when some of the traditional space or the HEX scale type of deal, like the grayscale version, but for HEX, when you have things like that are also entering the traditional finance space, I think it gives it more legitimacy. Thank you though for the Jamie Dimon, because I was blanking on the name.
JP Morgan, I'm pretty great man, but no longer with us, unfortunately. Hey man, we like to end it on some gratitude. So is there someone, just like Thanksgiving, we like to have good conversations, eat good food, and just have a good positive feeling. Gratitude is so healthy to put out there. I think everybody needs more of it. So is there someone, is there a product that you just absolutely love that's changed your life, or someone who did something really cool for you lately? Anything or anyone you want to express some gratitude towards?
I mean, for me, I think it would always, the answer would generally always be my family, right? My brothers and things like this. We've always maintained a very close relationship. And as I grew older and things like that, I had realized, other people's relationships with their siblings maybe weren't as tight of a bond, things like that. So it's just the family, whether it's myself and my brothers or my parents. I did a stream with Thothschild the other day, and he's like, man, what do you attribute to, some of your successes or things like this, or some of those opportunities of being able to get into something early? And my dad in 3rd grade, I had a computer in my room, so he'd at least seen that, hey, because he was into, IT sales and things like that on top of real estate, but he had enough foresight that he wanted, his youngest son or his kids to be on the internet and to be learning and things like that. So I would just say for the, the parents and the opportunities that I've had, or with, say, the brothers and things, hey, you can take what works successfully and you can replicate that. Or if you see something that you would have done differently, hey, you can do that as well without making the same mistake. So, those people in my family kind of helped me get to the position that I'm at today.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's definitely friends, family, community. Those things are so important, just to keep you on the straight and narrow as far as getting through life. Everyone's got ups and downs. It's good to have people you can talk to about it, and people who can cheer you on and be on your team and hold you accountable too if you're screwing up. You need people to tell you, hey, you're not going down the right path, or at least give you a debate about it so you can even be more confident about the path you're going down, or make some changes. So and it's great to have you on. Thanks again. You were one of the first people I streamed with as well. You and Crypto Kindness kind of got me started in the streaming. I remember when we first met, I was like, yeah. Somebody there asked me, are you a streamer? I'm like, oh, no, I'm not a streamer. I have a blog though. And then maybe a week after that, it was like, all right, I guess I'm streaming now. I guess I'm going to do this. Cool. So yeah, I always appreciate that. You have me on too. And it's a great conversation as always. And yeah, I'll see you soon.
Awesome, man. Thanks again for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course, everyone. Next show is on Saturday. I'm taking a day off. I deserve a day off, don't I? It's been 4 days straight. I'm taking a day off. Friday is my off day. I'll be streaming Saturday morning with Crypto Compassion, I believe. And then, I'll see Brandon and other peeps this weekend as well. So should be fun. Thanks everyone on the chat. I appreciate you coming. Share the link, like, subscribe, smash the all button, Jerry. Do all the good stuff. And I'll see you next time. Peace out.
Peace.